Thank you. I'm audible? Right. Okay. To be honest, it's been a very hectic day for me. Um, Not as energetic as he would like to, see me. And I really don't know what to speak here right now because see, um, the audience here, the crowd here, knows about investment, funds, basically finance, and the mood and the discussion, whatever has been going on here, is completely detached from what I do in my life. Um, so I don't know how and where to connect. And the easiest way or the easiest path that I choose, usually on such occasions, is to stop speaking and start interacting because otherwise it becomes like a all India radio. I just switch on the radio and you keep listening. Um, I don't know what you want to listen to. I don't know what is your area of interest. Let's have a open kind of session if it suits you. It's okay? Yeah. So I think some mic should go around. Can a mic go around? That would be good. So whatever time I spend here, I'll just like to make it as interactive as possible. We'll talk to each other. I know lots of friends out. Not here? Not audible? Better? Yeah. Okay. I need one more mic that will go around and then let's open up. Shall we? And I'll not speak until someone starts asking something. So who is the, yeah, please. Thank you. Yes, please. If there's a mic that could go there. Thank you.
Of course, I think we'll take some questions from everyone. But yeah, I'm just very curious because we are, as you rightly said, in a corporate world or, a financial world. We are very curious in terms of how do you see the change which is happening in terms of the government, in terms of the way they are working, what is the kind of approach which you are seeing because, we are talking about Amrit Kal period and the growth period. So what is the change in the government which is happening in terms of the execution part?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I'll take that question a bit more further because you're asking what change am I seeing in governance, or how the government functions in execution. I'll try to answer that. I'll also try to say what I would like to see the government doing, what we all should be trying to see. We have a history, we have a tradition of the government trying to do everything over years. In Kerala, yes, even now we try that. We try to do everything. We try to take care of children from cradle, till the very end, till cremation. We believe, the government tends to believe that we are making things happen. We are the ones who are doing things. Whereas the reality is, government is just one of the players in the whole ecosystem. What does government ultimately do? Government takes tax, gives you protection, regulation. What is this? This is actually something very similar to hafta. Hafta vasuli. We take hafta vasuli and what do we give in return? We give a bit of security, structure and all that stuff, regulation. Just because you don't give hafta, it doesn't mean that the market is bad. So that's how in a modern world, you should be looking at taxation. That's how you should be looking at government administration as such. There are many things which will go fine without any problem, even if there is no hafta, even if there is no protection. Those areas we need to get out of it. We don't need to go and boss around in those areas. But it's a very difficult decision for someone in government to do because we are trained to think otherwise. For instance, during COVID, let's go back to the COVID period. When things were being shut down, when the government was all powerful in every state, everywhere, we would decide what should work. What's the timing? Can you recollect what was the timing that we proposed in every state, all over India, all over the world also, by and large? The timings were 10 to 5. We allow many things between 10 to 5. And after 5, we say, chalo, everyone get back Go back to your home. Because we believe that productive work happens on file. Government does business. Government is what is running. So 10 to 5. And after 5, why should anyone be outside? Bago, go back. Whereas the reality is livelihood starts after 5 for many people. But we inside the government tend to think otherwise. We control everything. We are the ones who are making things happen. No, it doesn't happen that way. So I would like to see government retract a bit, come to terms with realities such as this. And in some places, yes, it's happening. For instance, government of India especially, many policies that are coming out now is more of the facilitatory nature. It's not trying to get everything done through some arm of the government or the other, trying to get done through PSUs, for instance. Those things have to change. And I think gradually that is happening. In Kerala, yes, we are taking more time. Yeah, that's the way I'll put it in a very diplomatic manner. Okay, next, shall we? That was an icebreaker kind of a question, very sedate. Okay.
Sir, can you throw some light on the relationship between center and state, sir? Does it affect any of the prospects of any individuals or government? Because we are hearing a lot of things. Every state want to compete against each other. So how does the relationship work or doesn't work?
Well, in reality, see, we go by the constitution, right? Isn't it? We go by the constitution. And in India, you don't have federal government, unlike in the US. In the US, you have something called federal government. Here we have the union government. The constitution itself very clearly says that India is a union. Union means what? It's unified. You can't detach, you can't take anything out of it. Whereas a federation is a federation. You are federated. You can detach also, theoretically. But in US, no state has ever cluttered from the federation. Nobody has successfully detached itself. So it's theory. Essentially, everywhere it is a union only. In India, you have the union list, state list, the powers are clearly demarcated, and law and order, things that have to do with day-to-day life of the public, of the people. That is what is covered in the state list. So essentially, the state government functions at a micro level, whereas the union government functions at a macro level. It's fairly simple. That's why you have things like defense or research, space, these kind of big things with the union, and policies that tend to impact the entire country are with the union, and with the state, micro level management and execution is there. But the point is that execution by and large is with the states, because manpower is with them, the field level connect is with them. You don't find many central government offices, do you? When you roam around, anywhere you go around, you don't see central government representation in huge numbers, except for taxation purpose and all that, regulatory purpose. Other than that, for all developmental activities, you will find the state government offices. And say some subjects like agriculture, which is a state list. Even for that, you have a central government ministry which will disperse the funds and all that. But again, they can't get into the nitty-gritty. It's a state list. So long as the state and the government and the union have respect, mutual respect, and they understand what is their domain, things are fine. But I know your question stems from the core issue, which is plaguing all of us nowadays, is conflict. You have a lot of conflict happening, and the question is how that will impact the common man. Yeah, it's a tricky situation. Sometimes it does impact because, see, funding is a classic example. In Kerala, you have that situation. Unless you have a cordial relationship where you give and take, you understand the niceties, even though we don't say there is federation, even though we don't acknowledge federalism in the constitution, you have the Supreme Court reading federation into it. You have the very famous Keshavananda Bharati case where the Supreme Court has discovered federal structure as one of the basic structures of the Constitution, even though the word federation has not been used in the Constitution. It's not been used. Still, the Supreme Court says that it is a fundamental structure, it's a basic structure of the Constitution. So you read something into it. So federation is there. The federal principles have to be respected. That's a funda. That's a funda which the Supreme Court also says. So it's a delicate balance and a fine balance, which over years, I believe, we are still a very young country. If you look at the Constitution and the history, gradually things will get better, and I think we'll arrive at an equilibrium where many things have to be corrected, rectified. Balance has to come. Classic example is GST, taxation. At some point of time, you had the state governments fighting each other with different tax structures. And that's when, all over, everyone felt that, no, we need to have a uniform structure that will facilitate trade, that will facilitate commerce. That's how this GST thing came in. Now, you are having teething trouble even now with GST execution. It's something that has to be ideally in the state list, but now you find the center and the state together executing it. You have a GST council. These are all innovations. These are all solutions which we gradually find or discover on the way. And as I said, we are still a very young country. It will take time for us to arrive at proper 100% solutions. There are no perfect solutions, but yes, we are fairly early in the journey, and we tend to compare ourselves with very established countries like US and UK and all, who have a long history with their constitution. When we say a long history, we should understand we have a greater history, but unfortunately, our political structure is recent. The constitution is young. So we'll take a bit of a time, but definitely we'll be far better than them because we have a lot of learnings from their mistakes, from what is, even our constitution, we ripped apart from various constitutions, including the US Constitution. The US Constitution took some time to arrive where they are. There are quite a few crucial amendments. Those amendments were fundamental to our Constitution. Like the first amendment. First Amendment is fundamental to our fundamental rights. So that's basically the same thing. So you are starting at this level. So I think we'll gradually solve these kind of issues, as time progresses. Thank you. Yeah. Wealth creation. I think wealth and value has to be created. Where do you find value? It's always in a problem. You need a problem to find a value. Only when a problem is solved is a value created. There should be a gap. There should be a critical gap which can be solved through a value creation, and it could be commercialized. That is business. Ultimately, that's business. Those who have this business acumen and sense, they will identify a problem and immediately find a solution, try to find a value for it, try to monetize it. Then it becomes a successful business. Those who are unable to do that, those who feel that a problem is a problem, they really don't start off anything. They'll only keep cribbing. And in Kerala's context, I don't know how many of you are from Kerala. In Kerala context, I always keep telling this. We have a problem or an attitude problem when it comes to wealth creation. I mean, many people do think that. Creating wealth is not bad. You don't have to be ashamed of creating wealth. You have to be proud, actually. You have to be really proud that you're creating wealth. The share market is a classic example of how you create wealth, how you help people become part of creation of wealth. Again, I'll go back to COVID. During COVID period, many businesses actually went down. You know that. You couldn't do business. You are locked up. What do? But you have capital. You had capital which you could deploy. Somewhere you need to get money out of it. During COVID period, sensible people knew that public transport will come down. Public transport will not be that great, at least for a period. What will zoom will be private transport, which means cars. Also, pharma companies will make a lot of money. Pharma industry will make money. So as a businessman, as an investor, as someone who wants to create value and wealth, I would love to start a pharma company. I would love to start a automobile company. But that would be very stupid on my part to go and start something at that point of time. But you always have the opportunity to become part of a company by owning a piece of it through the share market or mutual funds or whatever, whichever manner you want to deploy your funds. So the smart guys, all of them went and opened their demat accounts. I'm sure you would be knowing that the bulk of the demat accounts that are in operation in India right now were opened during the COVID period. Because the smart people thought, okay, I need to deploy money in these sectors. And again, when you try to choose a sector, okay, you know that automobile sector is going to zoom. Which automobile company do you invest in? That's a question. And do I invest in electric motors, electric vehicles, or do I invest in petrol or in diesel? Which car will I invest in? Which car company will zoom? We don't know. So what do? You work backwards. You take one more step backward. Whichever car gets sold, it will have a tire. So you can even invest in a tire company. You could also identify components that will be sold with any car. So you again micromanage and come back. There are so many companies in India which provide components. There's a company in Chandigarh which provides 70% of the global share of a particular component, automobile component. Even gears, the windshield part. There are certain niche companies. Those are listed companies as well. So if you invest in that, you become part of the wealth creation in that particular sector without starting your own company. I mean, that's the way you create money. You don't have to create value on your own. You identify the best person who is creating value and tag along. That is a most preferred way. You don't reinvent the wheel. So when you think of value creation, everywhere there is an opportunity. Even when you are locked up in COVID times, you have an opportunity to create value. Identify the gap, identify the opportunity, and latch onto it. Youngsters, generally, those who are very much oriented towards the academic side, they have a problem. When you are very heavily oriented towards academics, I think that's one reason why in Kerala you have a bit of a problem when it comes to wealth creation or identifying value and all that. You don't take failure. You don't want failure. You need to excel in academics. In every class, you need to get good marks. You can't take risk. Your risk is not appreciated. Your failure is not appreciated. But if you want to discover value, you should be able to take a bit of failure on the way. Without that, you can't always expect that every time it will be a bullseye. So this risk-taking capacity is something that limits or makes you good at identifying value and becoming an entrepreneur. Not everyone needs to become an entrepreneur, but it's good if you're able to at least identify good entrepreneurs or identify good business ideas so that you can create value by being part of the whole game. You can be a partner, isn't it, by investment. So fundamentally, the point I'm trying to make is value creation, wealth creation, this is something which not everyone can do, but there are people who do it extremely well through maybe they are talented and all that stuff, but even others should know how to identify it, at least be part of the show. You should extract some pie out of it, right? So that's it.
Sir, as a collector, what is the challenging challenge you have met in your governance and how did you overcome that?
Challenge, like you mean the biggest challenge or something like that? I've always found human beings to be the biggest challenge. Resources are okay, you can find resources, you can find solutions, technical solutions, these are all possible. But human mind, attitude, these are things that will really, really challenge you. You can't, you can take a horse to the water, you can't make it drink. You can find solutions, you can give guidance, you can give training, you can give everything, but the human mind is not capable of doing that. See, human mind is a very funny, it's a funny animal. It's a very, very funny animal. How it works, how it takes decisions, it's sometimes it's very crazy. Again, I'll go back to COVID because COVID is a classic case study. I'll always go back to COVID because you get examples for everything in the COVID scenario. Whatever happened during that period, if you examine, you will get an example for something, for everything. What was the pandemic that caused maximum death as a percentage of the population in the world historically? Which one? Which was it? COVID? Plague, yes, plague, Black Death, plague. So if plague visits a country, a nation, almost 20% of that population is wiped out. More than 20 actually, 20 to 30, the exact figures I forget. 20 to 30% of the population is wiped out. It's not the infected people, it's the population that gets wiped out. And Black Death, they used to call. And how did this disease reach every city? It used to reach the ports, usually the ports, because a rat or something will get onto the ship will go to another port, so the plague will reach that port. Death will happen in that port, and the entire country, around 35% people died. The next infamous pandemic was after plague. Plague is number one. After that, it was Spanish flu. Spanish flu was the next big villain. Spanish flu killed almost like 15% of the population. If it hits a country, 15% is gone. These diseases, these pandemics happened when travel was not that easy, telecommunication wasn't that great. So, the disease also traveled slowly. It had to catch a ship and go. You didn't have the airplanes and helicopters and stuff. But even then, it reached a country, it would kill around 15%. Okay, now the question is, what are the percentage of death that COVID caused? As a percentage, considering that it was the response to COVID was phenomenal, global response was phenomenal. What is the percentage of death? 40.
He says 1.
1. For 1% will we do so much of drama? Hey, no. Give me a number, please. You had 35, 15, COVID, when you had advanced transportation facilities, telecommunication facilities, when a germ in Tokyo can reach Kerala at a go, from China to Europe in a go, anybody can carry the germs. So what are the percentage? I can see Googling. Yes, Google, please Google and tell me. The WHO website gives the figure. Two. It actually keeps going down with time. It's actually 0.28. 0.28. Then why did we respond like that? When people used to die 35%, 15%, did the world panic? Why did we panic for 0.28? In hindsight, it's actually shameful that nobody acknowledges the fact that all of us had a collective hysterical panic. Everyone panicked. And the death caused by, now this is something more interesting which I'm going to tell you. The death caused by COVID restrictions is higher than COVID deaths. The restrictions which we put on COVID, related to COVID, have actually caused more death than COVID itself across the world. I'm very sure all of you would know at least one person who did not get timely medical care those days. There were heart attacks, there were stroke cases, there were even sodium levels getting fluctuated. Nobody used to get treatment on time. The doctors, the senior doctors were not consulting. There were lots of associated livelihood issues were there. So many people lost their businesses. Associated, it's like a 9-pin. Everything goes down. The core reason, if you look at it, is fear. It's human fear, fundamentally human fear of the unknown, which was so celebrated because from 2017 onwards, around 17 onwards, you had this big social media boom as well happening. And media also, social media, everything, which was not that present during the plague times, which was not there during the Spanish flu times. But you had something extra, which is media, social media, connections, communication. And human networking and communication thrives on fear, thrives on panic. You give out a panic message, the share market collapses. That's the way human mind is wired. You ought to be scared. You have to be afraid of things. And this is what has been pulling us down. So where did we start this conversation? What was the base question? I don't know how I came into this.
Yeah, you have been quite eloquent, sir.
Human mind. So I'm coming back to the human mind thing. If you have a fear factor, no matter how positive the scenario is, you are doomed. Human mind is like that. Every problem, look at COVID in a different light. The virus was isolated within a week. The genetic structure came out within 2 weeks. And the vaccine came out in a few months. If you think of it as such a positive thing, my God, and it's causing death less than 0.28. There is actually no cause for panic at all. Yet we panic because of our mind, the fear, and all that stuff. So basically, my whole point is that in administration or in any sector, in management, in whatever you do, it is the human mind and attitude which is the biggest challenge. If you don't have a team that understands these things, if your HR is weak, you are doomed. No matter what else you do, what you get all the resources, you will not be able to show any result. So that's an honest answer to that question.
Thank you, sir. That was wonderful having Mr. Prasanth Nair, Collector Bro, amongst us. Sir, one more very small request. Now, Mr. Prasanth Nair will be launching Ignite 2025. Next year's Ignite 2025 being launched by Mr. Prasanth Nair. That was the launch of Ignite 2025. Registrations are now open. Visit www.aifaindia.com. For members, registration is currently on a non-residential basis, without accommodation, but for non-members, it's on registration. Thank you so much. Now, to hand over a token of our appreciation, can we have Mr. Ron Abraham to kindly come forward to hand over a token of appreciation to Mr. Prasanth Nair. Gentlemen and ladies, please put your hands together.